And so you see these Russian twists? Well, yeah, they're going to have to go. What's up guys, Jeff Cavalier, ATHLEAN-X.com. What you see behind me is a bunch of different ab exercises that you likely recognize because you're either doing them right now or you have in the past. However, after today's video, you're going to want to get rid of a few of them. Today I'm going to rank the ab exercises from worst to best, and there can only be one best. I'm going to help you to find the exercises that are going to give you the most bang for your buck and give you the results that you're looking for. So in beginning our ranking here, we start at the bottom, and unfortunately the bottom here means the ab exercises that you might want to stop doing. And the criteria for all of these exercises in terms of grading them is to consider A, how multidimensional are they? Are they hitting just one single area, or are they helping us to do more than just one thing? Because the abs are capable of much more. Do they have scalability to them, allowing beginners all the way up to advanced to be able to work within their ability level on that exercise? Or do they require a lot of equipment that might make it something that is not possible for a lot of us to do? So that being said, I start with another criteria, and that is the exercises that people screw up often. And the first one is the Russian twist. Now I like the Russian twist. But again, this is done wrong more often than maybe any other ab exercise in the gym. And because it's so popular and common, we have to put it in this category. And the reason is that people turn this into something called a Russian tap. They don't do any rotation at all. And we know that the abs prefer to control and produce rotation on their own. However, if you're just tapping your hands left to right, all you're doing is an isometric hold, which is not going to get the job done. If you can ensure that you're getting the right rotation by driving your elbow back behind your body, almost as if you're rowing your arm back, and then therefore turning this exercise into the way it should be performed, then sure, it's going to bump up into a higher category. But once again, many people don't get this right. Even when they know the cue, they still can't execute it the right way. So therefore, we have to put the big red X through the Russian twist. The next exercise in this worst category is one that suffers from the same problem, unfortunately. It's the bicycle crunch. It's supposed to be a rotational ab exercise as well. It's supposed to also tie in some of the obliques. But if you're just flipping your elbows side to side and pistoning your legs up and down with nothing more than your hip flexors, then I'm sorry, you're not doing what you should be doing for your abs. Of course, there's another way to do this exercise as well, and I pointed it out many times before, that would jump this up into a much better category, and that would be by concentrating on the actual rotation of the shoulders and not worrying about the elbows. But many of us still, even with that proper cue in mind, don't get this right, and because of how commonly performed and misperformed it is, we have to put the big red X through the bicycle crunch as well. And so if you've watched any ATHLEAN-X ab video before, by the way, if you haven't, where the hell have you been? You likely know how I feel about the dumbbell side bend. I don't like it, and there's a lot of reasons why not. It belongs in the worst category because it's an inferior ab exercise. As a matter of fact, it does more for your obliques than it does your abs. And even there, it's not effectively the best thing you can do. And if you even put two dumbbells in your hands to perform this, you're just turning yourself into a human seesaw. But more so than that, it's what happens at the low back when people perform this. You can create some compression on the side that you're leaning towards, and you can create tightness in a muscle called the quadratus lumborum, which oftentimes gets tight and leads to chronic low back pain. For all these reasons, guys, you should probably have expected the dumbbell side bend is also going to earn the big red X. So the exercises behind me are dwindling, and we're still not out of the worst category, which should be a bit of a wake-up call. And I target next the one that's right here, dead center in the middle of the screen, and it's the plank. And look, I understand that this exercise can be beneficial for some, but that some is very few. And what I mean by that is this exercise tends to be far too remedial to provide any benefits in terms of advancing your level of core strength. If you can do a plank for more than 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes, you are way beyond the ability to do this exercise. You need to move on to something else. Not to mention the fact if you're not being conscious about contracting your glutes, this exercise can turn into nothing more than a hip flexor tightening reinforcement exercise because you're driving and keeping yourself off the ground by pushing through your hip flexors and not through the appropriate muscles. We have to put the big red X through the basic plank. And finally, we get to wrap up this bottom of the barrel category when it comes to ranking our ab exercises with one sitting up here in the corner, the lying leg raise. Now, I like exercises that challenge the lower abs by using the weight of your lower body to do that. However, when you limit the action to just lifting your legs up and down, relying on the fact that this will create an isometric stress for the abs, it's not going to cut it. What we're doing here is just causing a hip flexor over dominant exercise. Simply raising your legs up and down using only the hip flexors is going to lead to an arching lower back, which can cause low back pain, or just overactive hip flexors, which can lead to low back pain. So for those reasons, this too gets the big red X. And with that, I finally get to break out my blue marker, which means we're moving to the next level. Better. And I mean better and not great. Meaning better than the last category, but still not where we ultimately want them to be. And there's reasons why. And we start with the hanging leg raise. And for very much the same reason as the lying leg raise, this exercise can be challenging for some in different ways. Number one, if you are limited in your ability to hold the bar, then this exercise could cause fatigue in your hands before it does your abs, which would lead to less desirable results. The second thing is, if you still have the tendency to want to just lift your legs up in space and you're not focusing on your pelvis, then this exercise would not be very desirable. And some tend to do that. If you want to make this exercise better, it could jump to a better category if you do it properly. And that would be by moving the pelvis and curling it underneath. I've used the tip before, show your ass to the person standing in front of you. If they can see that, then your pelvis is curling. But for now, I have to break out my blue marker here and give it a circle as one that's better, but not yet best. And giving the hanging leg raise some company in the better category is the ab wheel rollout. And this exercise is one that I actually like a lot, but it tends to be another one of those that people don't perform properly. And when you don't, it goes from being a good option to a not so good option, which makes it fall in this category for now. When done correctly, this is a great anti-extension core stabilization move, right? One of the key functions of the abs. And the further you roll out, the more work your abs are going to have to do to prevent you from dropping in like this. The other thing people do is they just tend to roll themselves all the way back and take all the stress off of the abs. And that's actually making the exercise less effective too. You want to pretend there's a line right behind your butt from the starting position that you never want to cross in order to keep the tension focused on the abs to do this properly. And when you do that, it is in the better category, and for that reason, it gets the blue circle. And so let's keep our journey going up the scale towards best with our even better still category, slightly better than the exercises we just showed you, and for a good reason why. And we start here with the hanging knee raise. And different than the hanging leg raise, we get to shorten the moment arm by keeping the legs tucked closer to our body. So A, it becomes instantly easier for those that might be too challenged by keeping the legs straight. At the same time, it's going to decrease the tendency for us to try to dominate and lift with the hip flexors because it's easier to focus on curling the pelvis up and under, both of the things I pointed out before. Once again, though, it has its limitations of demanding that you have enough hand and grip strength to maintain this hanging position on the bar for the duration of the exercise. So meaning you have to have stronger hands than abs to ensure that your abs are what fail first. That being said, the yellow marker comes out now as an improvement to mark the hanging knee raise. I talked about the multidimensionality of an ab exercise and what makes it a better choice when you're looking at one versus another. And the hanging corkscrew does just that. It doesn't just focus on the rectus abdominis, but it gives us a chance to tie in the all-important obliques as well. And with just a slight twist, and I mean slight twist in the motion, literally. You're just trying to turn your legs a little bit, and you're just focusing on moving the pelvis alone. This is not a leg lift, it's a pelvis lift, and by doing this you can see how concentrated and effective it is, but the same limitation being the grip strength is going to be required for you to do this, but it's still a great exercise that belongs right here smack dab in the middle of our ranking chart, and therefore the hanging corkscrew gets that yellow circle. Speaking of the obliques, another ab exercise that has that ability to bring the obliques into it strongly is the single-sided slow carry. And beyond the fact that it needs a piece of equipment, it only needs one single dumbbell to do this right. And by holding the dumbbell in our hands here, we're working on controlling that pillar strength. Not allowing this to turn into that dreaded side bend by moving in that direction, but preventing the side bend with that heavy weight held on our side. And we can challenge this even more by performing the exercise slowly. Each time you pick up 1 foot off the ground, you now have more instability by being on only one leg at a time, which is going to demand that opposite side oblique contract and contract hard in conjunction with your core to provide a great stability exercise. This here gets that yellow circle as yet another better still exercise for your abs. And so now with plenty of ab exercises left up on the board, we get to move up into the almost best category. Not the best, but right up there as very good and solid ab exercises, and we start with the side bridge twist. And what I like about this is it's sort of the anti-side bend, right? This is a better way to perform that lateral flexion. We get to do it from the bottom up. So what I do is I lift my trunk up off the ground to create that lateral flexion pillar strength with the assistance of the obliques, but also to introduce another component here, that rotational control and stability. Remember, if we can layer on benefits, we have a better exercise controlling both rotation, and lateral flexion is a better exercise. It gets the green marker here, the first of the almost best category, the side bridge twist. Moving on and proving that ab exercises don't have to be elaborate to be effective, the levitation crunch is one of my favorite ways to train the abs, and it's a very simple and small movement when done properly. All your goal should be when you're trying to perform any crunch is to simply lift your shoulder blades off the ground. All too often people want to crunch pulling their head closer to their knees, thinking that they're doing more of a crunch. That's not the range of motion of the abs. You need to only lift those shoulder blades up, so stop cranking on your neck and instead think of just levitating your body up towards the ceiling by putting your hands back behind your head and letting the shoulder blades guide the way. For these reasons, the levitation crunch earns the second spot in the almost best category on the ranking of our ab exercises from worst to best. If the levitation crunch is a great minimalist exercise for the upper abs, the swiper is a great minimalist exercise for the lower abs because once again, it relies on a very slow and easily controlled movement to make sure you're getting this done right. All we have to do to work the lower abs is get the pelvis off the ground. I alluded to it before when I talked about the lying leg raise. It's not about the legs. It's about getting the pelvis to curl back. And the swiper allows us to get that feedback that we're doing it right by making sure you can swipe your hands underneath your tailbone. This is one of my favorite easily performed ab exercises that anyone can do with no equipment at all. It belongs here in the almost best category for sure. And as we get down here to the bottom two, remember only one can be the best. The almost best of the almost best is the gymnast ab tuck. And this one here is one of my favorite ways to work, once again, those lower abs, proving once again that you don't have to worry about what's happening with your legs, but rather with your pelvis. The focus here is on folding your trunk right at the level of the pelvis, creating a posterior pelvic tilt, the all-important posterior pelvic tilt that is responsible for the flexion of the spine that creates the activation of the abdominals. And the thing that this exercise provides us over any of the hanging ab exercises that work your lower abs is the fact that we don't have to hang. You simply push your hands down into something like a captain's chair or even on the countertop if you do this in a kitchen counter corner. This here is one of my favorite ab exercises. It's the almost best of the almost best, right there up in the number 2 spot, the gymnast ab tuck. And that brings us to the top of the top, the best of the best. In this group of ab exercises, it's called the sliding tuck. And what you should notice here is a lot of the same similarities with the gymnast ab tuck, minus the requirement for equipment, which is what places this one at the top. Once again, we want to curl that pelvis into the posterior pelvic tilt, not by driving with the hip flexors, but instead pulling into posterior tilt with the abdominal muscles. And when we do this, we have the benefit of doing some extra things. We don't have to allow ourselves to slide straight back. We can do it at somewhat of an angle to involve the obliques as well. And if we want to really drive the lower abs into this, we can add some additional knee tuck like a hanging knee raise to make this an all-encompassing exercise that does pretty much everything. Guys, there can only be one best and only one worthy of the top prize, the green star, when we're talking about the best of the best in ab exercises. And so there you have it, guys. Worst to first, the best ab exercises, the great to the ugly. If you want to see me do this with other ab exercises, make sure you leave a comment below. If you want to see me do this with other exercises, just let me know below. I will make sure I do that. If you're looking for programs that select only the best of the best so that you can get the best results, you can find them all over at ATHLEAN-X.com. If you haven't done so, make sure you click subscribe, turn on your notifications so you never miss a new video when we put one out. All right, guys, see you soon.